All right, here we are, Lagos, Nigeria, and world. It is time for Freshly Pressed, which means news analysis right here on Smooth Breakfast. I'm Shopper Martins, and today I am joined by Lakunle and Devo. Good morning and good morning.
Good morning, Lagos. Good
Eku.
morning, Shopway. Cool. Where is our safety?
And Lakunle, what's your greeting?
Good morning. It's a good day today. Thank God for the rain. Good morning,
Oh,
Lagos.
meanwhile, can I say, please, shout out to Nimet. I can't believe I had to do this on Freshly Pressed, but all I remember is as soon as it started raining, I had to check what date it was today because I remember that it came out, the agency came out and said that we should start expecting, some rainfall, heavy rainfall from April 6th, and here it is, April
And
6th.
it is heavy this morning.
Very heavy, heaviest rainfall I've seen this year. All right, and yes, let's get into the stories. Remember, you can join the conversation by using the hashtag FreshlyPressed981 up on Twitter. You can also tag us. We are at Smooth981FM, at Devo Okore, and at Lakunli17. And you can also send your WhatsApp messages into 0809 444 981. We are streaming live currently on youtube.com/ smooth981FM Lagos. Leave a comment up on the live stream and we'll be able to get to it in the course of the show. Let's take a look at what we've got on the news front right here in Nigeria. Headline from This Day newspaper: once again, terrorists strike Kaduna and attack military camp, kill 15 soldiers and 3 civilians. Now, of those, this occurred in an attack at a military camp at Polwai and Birngwari local government area of Kaduna State. Two of the civilians apparently members of a vigilante group, while one was a traveler. Devo, I'd love to get come to you for your take on this, especially as we saw the Senate yesterday reiterating the need for the president to, as a matter of urgency, declare a total war on terrorists. Because right now we've even got the governors, we've got
Okay.
an emergency meeting that's being fixed in Abuja for Friday with the governors of the 36 states and speakers of the houses of assembly fixing this. Devo, your thoughts?
First of all, before we read the usual, I can't believe that what you just mentioned, which is true, that the Senate House of Assembly literally mandated or was begging the GCFR, that is the Grand Commander of the Federal Republic, to go to war. When does it come to that point? And if you remember when Buhari was being campaigned, the whole idea was he was an ex-general, meaning that he knew, had the capacity to be able to restore safety and security. So then again, I ask, when we start having these issues, where is our safety? Now, this is not a new story because I know by now Nigerians literally have become immune to listening to different attacks that take place all over this country.
Which is something that we cannot afford to do.
Yes. Unfortunately, I want to bring out some strong points from what took place in Kaduna yesterday. Again, terrorists en route from Niger to Zamfara, okay, in large numbers, attacked the military camp at Biringwari. Biringwari is at the southern side of Kaduna. Now, this took place around 5 p.m. and lasted for hours, okay? The reporter did mention that they were carrying sophisticated weapons, and which, as we know from the pictures that we have seen, AR-15s, AK-47s, GMDs, rocket propellers, rocket launchers, grenades, etc., and co. Now, it said that there were about between 100 and 200, and we know how they move in terms using what do you call them? These pickups as well as the motorbikes, that's the Okadas. Now, they took on the military camp that was at Biringwari and obviously at the end of the day overpowered them because it claimed that there were about between 40 to 60 soldiers at that time. Now, you see, that's the simple issue that happened. Now, it raises pointed questions based on this article. One, given the hours of battle, that was the soldiers trying to, within the camp, trying to repel them, why was there no Air Force support? It a fighter jet or even the Tucano jet wouldn't take more than an hour if whether it was based in Abuja, based in Kaduna, based in Kano, or any of the other camps would have taken an hour to have reached where they were. Why did they not get Air Force support? I need an answer to this question because Nigeria spent in upwards $1 billion in buying 10 Tucano jets. We took time to get a legislative position to identify or designate these bandits as terrorists, and now we're not using them, especially when literally the theater of war is being granted to us. That's one. Secondly, how does a large movement of terrorists not go detected? Imagine 100 Okada men in motion. Is it that we don't have satellite technology? Even Google would have cited that. What is it with our military? What is it with our intelligence forces, the DSS?
Now,
I don't understand what is going on.
Devo, you're asking very
I don't
pertinent
understand.
questions, and it begs the question. What exactly do we have to do, and does it need to get to the stage where we declare complete and total war on terror across all 6 geopolitical zones before we see any sort of movement when it comes to attacks like this? Because this is becoming too frequent. You've already said that. Everybody is that is the thing at the forefront of everybody's minds, that this is becoming so frequent. I wonder if even our at this point, even our security agencies too are inured to the attacks that are
Yeah,
going on, not just the civilians when it comes up on the news.
Mm.
They're like, oh yes, another attack is here. The questions need to be answered. Will we get the answers?
Well, you see, at this point, it's safe to say that there's got to be some level of compromise in our security forces, because I am not seeing the well-trained soldiers I know, the agile soldiers I know, coming from ECOMOT till date. If this is not their reactions, there's something wrong if we are going to sit quiet and just allow this to continue.
Now, luckily, Devote came up with an interesting question, which was when we see the movements of these people, what's going on with our information? And that brings me into the topic from the headline from the Vanguard newspaper: Federal government inaugurates new agency, tasks management on data protection. And we've seen the question of data coming up and how it can be and should be used with regards to the linking of our SIM cards and to our national identification numbers. Now, we heard from the Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Professor Issa Pantami, calling on the management of the newly established Nigeria Data Protection Bureau to ensure data protection, privacy, and confidentiality in Nigeria. Now, this calls up questions about whether or not we need a new agency, first of all, how secure our data currently is, and what we want to see being done with our data in order to stem the rising level of insecurity in the country.
Okay, the NDPB, that's the National Data Protection Bureau. It's a baby of the thinking that we don't have a proper law or a set of laws or a set of codes guarding these things we have spoken about: the storage, the access, the use, the rights to data, as it were. Okay, so as at as far as I know, the National Institute of Technology and Digital Agency, something NITDA for short, is the custodian, in quotes, of data for the government of Nigeria as at today. So what this new body is going to do is that they are going to inherit that responsibility. So there's going to be a law, right, to guard and guide how this bureau, National Data Protection Bureau, will function. Okay, so the functions then will include take ownership, storage, grant access with due permission, use, monitor other people who take data who store data for themselves or on behalf of other people, and its use. So that means that everywhere where you have data stored, they must the NPDB now supervises how that data is stored, where it can be stored, who can have access to it, and so on and so forth. So essentially that's what this is all about.
Now, is that a necessary function?
Yes, it is a necessary function. That it is taken off NITDA. In my opinion, I think it's a good thing that you have an independent body to a large extent set up by law to do this. Now, having said that, I also like to also point us to the fact that data is the law. I'm hoping that this law, when it is set by the National Assembly, will give more power to the owners of the data. For example, I expect that my personal details I should have control over it much more than the proposed user. A storer of my data, for example, the law should empower me to have power over who stores my data before it can share it with a third party, for example. That kind of a thing. And it's also that the last thing I then like to say on that is that there is that data protection is a constitutional right guaranteed by the Constitution of Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999. And I hope that when this bureau and the act or the law that's going to back it up is set up, it will take precedence from that section of the Constitution so that the use, access, sharing, storage, where, how, when is not abused, misrepresented, misinterpreted, or abused. So those are the very key things that we need to know. It's a good thing to have, and we're glad that we're doing these things, even though we're doing them in bits and pieces. But it's a good thing to have.
The piecemeal approach. Interesting. Premium times now. NIN enforcement begins on chaotic note as telcos bar phone lines already linked. Let's keep talking about data, people. Now, some subscribers who claim to have linked their phone number said they were unable to make calls from the early hours of Tuesday. We heard from some of the major telcos coming out to, some issuing apologies, some saying this is really just a directive from on high. Devo, your take on what is going on with regards to the enforcement?
Yes, as usual, most processes by the federal government always end up in one higgy haga. However, as you know, following the postponement of the NIN enforcement, that's the NIN number, which is a security measure being put in place by the federal government to check fraudsters, terrorists, kidnappers, and criminal activity, came to fruition on Tuesday when the federal government then ordered telcos to bar those that were not linked. Okay, for some months now, they've been pushing the campaign for us to get our the telephone numbers linked because of those who operate criminally and can't be traced. However, this was wrought by a lot of how would I call it, teething problems in terms of people getting sufficient centers, adequate centers, and even, funny enough, when I linked my number, all I heard was, okay, your number has been linked, but you really didn't get an authentic certificate to show that your number was linked. So I'm not surprised now that with the implementation, even those who were linked, supposedly linked, have been barred. Well, in speaking with some of the telcos, some of them were not apologizing, but they were saying that numbers that were linked would not be barred. However, obviously, those who see that their numbers have been barred should get in contact or engage customer care to have that resolved. Now, so that's it. That's basically it. But I would say this for just for the record purposes, the NIN implementation is global. Okay, Nigeria is actually last on that list to be doing this. In most countries, you cannot buy a telephone line without getting the identification number registration. It's something that a country like Nigeria should have started long ago. Where blame is government's way of not bringing in the telcos early in the process, because the telcos have the structures nationwide to ensure that anybody at any time can easily get their NIN registration without stress.
All right, we've got your messages coming in. I'm going to take it over to WhatsApp and YouTube.com/Smooth981 FM Lagos. Starting off with YouTube, got this one in from Joseph, who says, Devo, I feel your pain. It is just weird that these things are happening. Intelligence is either not present or we don't want to use it. Nigeria and setting up things, another agency for data. Whilst Babafemi Onogweson says, I'm confused about this message, so I'm just going to move on. Oshapi says, why is Kaduna under a state of emergency? Kaduna is in a state of war, and the president has been asked to declare a state of emergency. We got this one in from Joseph, who says, would we be wrong to say all these forms of terrorism are state agendas for corruption to thrive and destabilize the nation to affect the 2023 elections? You would be thinking, so you can think and have your opinions all you want. Dr. Davies from Ikoyi says, Devo, you know the real reason. Our military is strong but helpless as there is no will from the commander-in-chief. And Nee says, how can terrorists be so predictable with their bikes and their strategy, and yet our generals do not know how to annihilate them? Well, what's a strong word? If only President Buhari had handled the issues of Nigeria the way he handled APC's issues, ASU would not be on strike, our refineries would be working, and insecurity would have been a thing of the past. While Cisco Delgado says, I'm not surprised the terrorists are having a field day with our security outfits because they were busy absorbing so-called repentant terrorists into the army. They should have known the consequences of their actions. Whilst Jerry says, Shakwa will not read my message when I say what I say. Okay, well, thank you. Moving on, this message in from Ayo from Ikoyi says, what is the use of the already existing NDPR? There's already a data protection regulatory body that just needs to be efficient. Why do we need another body? I smell a rat, says Ayo from Ikoyi. And Austin from Satellites has sent what looks like a poem at this point. Attack, attack, attack. Everywhere in the country, and he goes on to say everything. Everybody at this point has the same people, and yet nothing is changing. All right, let's take a look at the next story up for discussion, and that comes in from the Punch newspaper. Presidency PDP panel dumps zoning fears North's voting strength. Now, the zoning committee of the People's Democratic Party has apparently, according to one of the Punch correspondents, learned the committee has based its recommendation on putting aside zoning based on the high voter turnout in the north and the party's determination to return to power. According to a leaked document that was obtained by one of the correspondents, the committee stated that although zoning was affirmed in the party's constitution, the exigencies of the time made it dump the arrangement to vote. I cannot wait for your analysis on this.
Bagam, bagam, bagam. Please, someone ring bell for me. First point. PDP, yes, is the major opposition party. However, PDP is not the only opposition party. Nigerians, let me repeat myself, because when we read these things, it sounds like the Bible. PDP is an option. It is not the only opposition party. Well, the major opposition party came out of a 37-man zoning committee, all right? And contrary to the expectations of the Southern members, they recommended an open race for the party's 2023 presidential ticket. That is the meat of the story. Now, remember, zoning had been a very attentive issue among both parties, both major parties in the country, that's the APC and the PDP. And zoning has to do with how the criteria is used for selecting candidates for the election, especially the presidential, and this issue about whether it's the north or from the south, or if you microzone it even further to the southeast. Now, they said that the reason for keeping the race open was one, the exigencies of the time, which was born on the facts of the high voter turnout in the north. They looked at, Autumn was talking, he was the committee chair, that out of the top 10 states that had the highest turnout, 9 of them were from the north, and the 10th one was Lagos. All right. Now, they said based on that fact, that they would not want to play with that issue. Secondly, they said they were determined to return to power. Remember, prior to this time, when they've been having this back and forth, Tambawal, that's the Sokoto state governor, was saying that, fine, there's a clamor to push power to the south or even the southeast. However, you must first take power before you share it. Well, we don't have enough time to debate that because that's actually a very juicy conversation. However, remember
Don't worry, we'll get you at 9 o'clock one
the
day.
PDP is historical in the zoning concept, which was part of its constitution. And for those who don't know, it was a motley crew of gentlemen who sat down and said, oh yeah, I will have power now based on my location or my ethnicity. The next time you will take it, and the next time I will take it back. Now, that's what people have come to understand as zoning. But I would have you know that zoning is based on corruption, because all this while, when they have been zoning and pushing power back and forth between the north, the south, the east, the west, I have not seen a commensurate improvement or development for zoning to be an issue, because zoning has nothing to do with the issues that affect Nigeria. Well, it's come with mixed reactions, because one, the APC has not reacted. Two, Ohanese and Pandef, that's and the Middle Belt Forum they've been angry about it. Now, the truth is, we know that this bordered on the fact that, yes, Tamawal mentioned about taking power without before you share it, to the Atiku candidacy, which many believe with his 11 million votes in the last election, plus his financing capacity, that he may be able to ensure that the vote gets to the PDP. But I ask Nigerians, like I said, to think wisely, open their eyes once again. If all you're discussing is zoning, where someone comes from, you will explain to yourselves how zoning addresses the issues that we are facing as a nation.
Now, Devo, I'm just going to stick with you because 2023 is fast approaching. Vanguard newspaper, we've not lifted ban on political campaigns. INEC warns political parties and supporters. The call being deemed necessary because of what INEC resident electoral commissioner in Kano, Professor Show, says as the increasing trend of political acrimony being expressed by some individuals in various radio stations in the state.
Well, it's just a warning by the umpire to political parties, CSOs, and all those engaged in the political process that intra-party violence and criminality will not work because it creates the necessary tension towards the 2023 elections already. As you can see, some people in some quarters are saying that some ethnicities cannot ever get the presidency because they've been cursed, while some others are saying that, well, they're not cursed. This is what happened in history. While some are saying, I don't want people from that side, those who are into cattle, to lead us again. While some others are saying, well, if you don't know how to add political sagacity and take one tribe and another tribe, you will not win. You see, all this creates tension.
Devo, I see what you've done.
Yes,
there,
all this creates tension. And they're saying that we need peace and security to ensure that the conduct of the elections takes place. Remember, by law, political parties are meant to start campaigning 7 months to the election, and on the last month, it's a campaign-free month. But obviously, it looks like not too many people are obeying that. But let's see how it goes.
All right, we've got your messages in up on Twitter, hashtag freshlypressed981. Lady Ro has this to say: thank you, Devo, for spot-on analysis on the attack on the military base. I completely identify with those questions. How do 100 or more bandits or terrorists move around without getting noticed by any security outfits? That's impossible. Whilst Gilbert Musa from Festac says, on the continuous attacks in Kaduna, let us cast our minds to the Zango Kataf crisis of May 1992 that received global news coverage. Were the perpetrators fully identified and punished? Were the victims fully compensated? And Chris says, if the PDP doesn't want to zone this, all, by the way, up on our WhatsApp platform, says if PDP doesn't want to zone the presidency because of the alleged northern votes, are there no northerners in the PDP to attract the northern votes, or are they confirming that the north only votes for northerners? Says Chris. And the messages keep coming, but we've got more stories. Punch news now. IGP orders dismissal of 9 policemen for planning strike. So we heard from the Inspector General of Police, Usman Baba, who ordered the dismissal of 9 police officers for allegedly spearheading a planned strike by members of the Nigeria Police Force over poor conditions of service. Lakune, what were your thoughts when you saw this story?
2 things. One, when you were taking a job to be a policeman or woman for that matter, it's clear to you that you could never go on strike. You obey constituted authority. You obey the last order. In short, is a martial law in there. Okay, so that's very clear. Anything contrary to that is indiscipline, and you do want that to you do not want that to pervade the force. So to
Now-
that extent, it's all right to have this few people dismissed. The second thought, okay, is this: like my people say, a man who is cooking yam with firewood, he looks at the firewood, he says this one is not good, he removes it. He looks at the other one, this one is not good, he removes it. So when is the yam going to get cooked? That is what I think that we're doing here. We are assuming that these people are generally not good, or they are indisciplined and they are anti-establishment, and the best thing to do is to sack them, which is what they have done. Okay, but we are treating the symptoms of a disease.
Now
That's what we're doing.
I wanted to ask you because I understand the first point, but then again, if in that first point also contains, we have to look at Regulation 127, which talked about pregnant unmarried women being discharged from the force and other things like that that are
But-
still Yes.
We're treating the symptoms of the problem of the we're not looking at the disease itself. There's a root problem, there's a root cause for these problems, right? Okay, I made a note earlier on, just before we went on air. I said that I wrote something. I said, look, we're not talking about the welfare of the policemen. We're not looking at their health conditions, health insurance, group life insurance, proper kitting, humane and proper accommodation, adequate compensation, work hazard allowance or insurance, proper kitting, good work environment. Tell me, if you ever been to a police station in this country, tell me, do you feel good? Do you feel good that human beings work in those places?
And
We have as some police stations, they
luckily,
use
I'm gonna have to stop
containers.
you there because we don't have too much time. But also, and it all comes out in the numbers when we're looking at the last police recruitment exercise and the low turnouts that came for recruits. Let's take a look at the Vanguard newspaper article now. Senate approves Human Rights Fund to tackle sexual and gender-based violence and others. Can you take us through that, please?
Um, Great idea to have a law that a federal law now. I hope that the issue of domesticating it will not also come into play like we had with the child rights law the last
Yeah.
time.
Yes,
That's one aspect to look at. It's going to be a big conversation on that one alone. But quickly, the one that strikes me in the whole thing is that there's an establishment of a fund, right? So this fund, the proponent of this bill says multinationals, private individuals, NGOs will be the ones providing the monies to this fund. So corporate organizations in Nigeria, be ready for another round of taxing from your profits after tax or profit before tax, just like you have your education tax fund where corporate organizations are taxed to put money to run these things. So now, if let's when this happens, we would hope we would like to see the details of that. It also brings out the reason for every one of us, individuals and corporate, to get interested in the process of lawmaking, so that at the end of the day, when such bills and laws are passed, we are not at the brunt end of these things, because this is what it is. Now they have made a law without the input of who are going to be funding the whatever the thing the thing. So basically that's the part of it that strikes me the most, right? But let's look at it from the face value of it. It's good to have a federal law to handle these things, and we need to deal with it totally.
All right, thank you so much for that. And you can find this great analysis and more up on social media. Of course, we are at Smooth981 FM. Thank you for tweeting at us. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. And make sure you continue the conversation with Lakunle at Lakunle70 and with Devo at Devo Okore, both of them up on social media. Coming up, it is going to be sports inside the locker room at 8:15.
First Bank.